Hey there, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We got a couple guests here. If I can just bring them out. We've got A.J. Eaton, director. Cameron Crowe, producer. And Mr. David Crosby.
Wow. Elisa's here.
Damn.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
Yikes.
Woo!
Wow.
I feel like I need a bass and drums.
Let's get this concert
Hot
started.
crowd. That's a hot crowd.
Hot crowd, thank you all for coming.
Come on.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to start things off here. You know, I feel kind of inadequate up here. I'm up here with David Crosby, with the greatest interviewer of David Crosby, and with the greatest film chronicler of David Crosby. So it's like, what do I have to add here?
I'm a clerical error here. That's,
But so I wanted to start off with David. You know, these two guys have spent, you know, in some cases decades, and in other cases, you know, months and months and years probably, really just relentlessly examining you and cross-examining you and just digging into every single corner of your life. So to turn it around a little bit, what do you think of these guys? I mean, like...
yeah.
That's 2 more documentaries right there.
This is a good Q&A now.
I've known Cameron since he was 16. And I've known AJ for a couple of years now. I work with his brother. His brother's a really terrific musician. And we've gotten to be friends, and we like a lot of the same things in music. And I know him pretty well. And at least enough to where I trusted them both. You understand, it wasn't as if we were at odds about what we wanted to do. We completely agreed about the approach to this thing. Most documentaries are shine jobs. They're just, they're bullshit. They're about as deep as a bird bath, and they don't tell you. If I'm going to see a documentary about you, I want to know what matters to you. I want to know what's in your head. I want to know what you're afraid of. I want to know who you love. That stuff matters to me. Okay, that's what I want to know. And these guys, that's the level that we wanted to do it at. That's the only level they're interested in. So what you see is the result. But I knew I could trust them going in.
Well, to get back into when you kind of really started to feel that, I mean, I know this, if you wanted to tell them a little bit, AJ, this obviously started off as a short film, you know, just shooting footage, and then Cameron comes in. If you could just let us know exactly how that developed into what we just saw.
Yeah, I met David when he was 69 years old, and he was working on an album called Cross, which was his first solo album in 20 years. And my brother Marcus is this great guitarist, and they hit it off, and my brother invited me to come check out what they were doing, and I was just totally blown away with this fresh, new, luscious music that David was working on. I was totally surprised. And when we became friends, because we connected because we were geeking out over jazz music, I realized, like, this David's, his mind's still with, his memory's working great, and it's still there, and the window of opportunity is open for us to possibly make a movie. So I somehow convinced him to let me shoot some footage, and the minute that I started focusing cameras on him, I realized, yeah, he's an amazing raconteur. And then after a couple of years of nearly going broke and having some really bad Hollywood meetings, we won't go there. I serendipitously met Cameron, the rock and roll music oracle. And Jill Mazursky, our executive producer, advocated on my behalf, and he agreed to meet with me, and then the rest was kind of history. He was busy doing roadies, and I'll let you kind of take it from there, Cameron.
I saw 2 guys that were just ready to make a great film, and he was ready to talk, and he trusted AJ like he had trusted me when I was a young journalist, and I first met him, and he said, you know, you really want to write about this? It's very similar to the way he is now. You really want to see what it's like? Okay, come see the circus. I'm going to pull the curtain for you a little bit. You're going to see some stuff, but come to the next city. Now come to the next city. And this is the way he was. I didn't have a big assignment. He just had an instinct that I could be like him, kind of a journalist. And I think he's very much of a journalist and a storyteller. And when he sees somebody like AJ, he sees somebody that can be a messenger of truth. And so these guys were ready to go there. It took me a little bit to clear some of our other stuff that we were working on away. It started out with me just wanting to just give them interviews because I have so much fun interviewing him. But as I became more involved and the interviews got deeper and deeper, you know, I just had to stay with it. And we spent a lot of time in the editing room just bringing the emotion to all the details that he gave us in these interviews. So that there's not a lot of talking heads. There's not a lot of people telling you how to feel. There's this man answering your questions in a super raw way, and then it's up to us to create a story that makes you really know him from the inside out, viscerally, with music and cinema and cuts and editing from Elisa and Veronica.
Our editors are here tonight.
And working with these guys became like the best editing experience I've ever been involved in, because it was not a part of the studio experience. It was basically us outside the studio experience, following our hearts and making a very personal, intimate movie. It was great. So much fun.
We had a lot of fun.
David, where does this transparency and this trust come from? I mean, were there any moments where you thought, you know, it might not be the smartest thing to be saying this to these guys on camera or with a tape recorder? I mean, what allows you to be open like that?
I've lived the last 50 years in public, pretty much. It's not comfortable. It's not comfy being naked in public. Because you make mistakes. You do dumb shit. Everybody's looking. And so I'm kind of used to it. It's been pretty uncomfortable most of the time. But how this started was AJ was looking at what was going on around me. And I'm 77 years old. I'm supposed to be, my wife and I are supposed to be rocking off into the sunset. It's been so good to know you. And instead, I made 4 records in 4 years. Good ones. That's an aberration. That is not how it normally goes. Everybody that encounters it says, no, that's kind of weird. It has a lot to do with how lucky I am. I'm insanely fucking lucky. Excuse me, there's no kids here, right?
I think you're good.
It's rated R.
Kind of a potty mouth. I'm hugely lucky in the people that I've gotten to work with. You know that. You know them. The latest 2 batches you're learning about now. But the music's just been good, and I can't not do it if songs are gonna come. I have to serve the song. That's my job. And so they're looking at it and they're saying, you know, all right, yeah, it's kind of unusual. We don't see it anywhere else, and it is peculiar. And yes, the quality of the music's very good. And so that's fascinating to AJ. And when he involves Cameron, you know, once they start doing it, and you got to understand, they're my buddies, kind of, until they become filmmakers. At that point, everything shifts.
We have to serve the movie like you serve the song.
They become utterly merciless and brilliant. And they were smarter than me in the first place. So there wasn't any room to hide. I don't think we had any choice but to do it this way. But I'm really happy about it. Let me ask you one question, if you're asking me a question.
This is a Q&A. I like this.
Well, it matters to us. It's their life's work. It's also something that's crucially important to me. Did you like it?
This is a good audience.
Thank you.
We love you guys. Can I ask him a question on you? Excuse me, on your time, Andrew? 'Cause
Please,
I can't
please.
stop interviewing this guy.
By all means,
See,
cede the floor.
Was it like in the 80s when you read a poll saying you've been voted rock star most likely to not last the decade?
whoa.
Well,
I asked this of a guy who's probably the youngest person I know.
no, I remember that. I remember that. I remember when Spin Magazine said it was going to die next week. Okay, they had a reason.
Does it ruin your day?
Yeah, hell yes. Look, I already felt terrible about myself. I was a junkie. It doesn't get any stupider than that. Junkies are about 1/4 inch this side of dead. There's no good thing about it. There's nothing. It's a shameful thing to do to yourself. So I didn't really, you know.
Did you believe it?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it too late to add a little more to the...
Lisa, can we still open up the cut? Veronica?
No,
can
it's
we-
this level of honesty you never get very often.
But did that help
Thanks.
later on? I mean, just having that experience of seeing that. I mean, was that
It
a
helped.
breakthrough
And
in any
it
way?
also helped that I went to those 12-step meetings. For sure. Because they teach you that exact process. You know, I don't know if you agree with everything that goes on there, but that particular thing is absolutely right. It's catharsis. It's a known thing, and they've done it for centuries. If you look at your achievement or your mistake or your piece of relationship that you are concerned with, if you look at a mistake, you have to take it out and put it in the bright light and really look at it honestly. Because then the only useful thing that can happen there is learning from it, right? And that can't happen until you look. Can't happen until you look honestly. But then you can learn from the damn thing, and then you can set it the fuck down and move on. You can't carry baggage in life and keep really trucking. And you need to look at it. You can't set it down until you do. But that stuff they teach in the 12-step meetings, and it works. And it helped a lot with this.
Was this film purgative in a similar way?
Yeah,
Watching it?
cathartic, no question. Yeah.
Cross wrote a song called Set That Baggage Down on the Cross album.
That's one.
There you go.
So when you were doing the Cross album, though, I mean, you hadn't done a proper solo album in quite some time. What was the spark that got that going, where you've since done, 4 albums in pretty rapid succession?
CSN was friend and stale.
Right.
Wasn't fun. We weren't friends. I didn't feel like I could take a song there. Probably the last 10 years we were together. I was working for a paycheck. And that's why I had to leave. I can't really do that. It would have made it so I don't love music anymore. And, you know, when we started out, I loved those guys. I loved that music. I was totally excited by it. And I know we did good work. But it's like I said in the movie, when it turns to just doing it by rote for a paycheck, that's not it. There's no growth there. And very hard circumstance, very hard thing to do. I don't hate those guys, but I'm glad I did it.
You know, I mean, so much of this movie is about loss and about whether it's death or a breakup of a band, of a relationship, of a period of your life, and the fact that it rarely ends neatly and cleanly. And so I'm curious, because I mean, you're asked in virtually every interview I've ever read with you what the future of CSN is, CSNY is. Why can't people, as you kind of say here, let CSN die a dignified death? I mean, it can't just be
I
that,
love it.
right, but it can't just be that they want to hear Wooden Ships again. It's like there's something else that they're like.
It's
There's that need. What is
associated
that?
with a period of time when people felt hopeful, which they fucking don't now. You know. These are dark times. This is not a good time in the United States of America, which I love, okay, by the way. It's not a good time here. And it is, for anybody that can read or think, this is not a good time. And I think that's one of the main reasons I want to make the music. You know, that James Taylor song, Shed a Little Light. It's. I will say that's the most consistent complaint about CSNY that I get all the time. I've probably got 10 of them on my phone right now that I haven't read. They say, you know, will you cut it the fuck out and get your act together and do your job? We need you to be singing. We need our voice out there. Because of Ohio, you know. And yeah, okay, we were good at it. And I grant you that's a fair thing. I can't make anybody else do anything, man. I've got a certain amount of time here, and I got one way to work, and it's the only contribution I can make, and I'm going to be doing it every day.
Not to switch gears too abruptly here, but some of the most beautiful footage and sequences of this film are you on your boat. And I'm curious, where did this footage come from? How did this?
My friend Bobby Hammer, he was sailing with me to Hawaii from Mexico, about 3,000 miles. And he shot a lot of footage. A lot of it we can't use because there's all these naked girls in it.
And guys.
Yeah, and that one naked guy, I told them not to do that. I said, you can't put my naked ass in your movie. And they said, sure, Dave, no problem.
You know,
you notice it was in the movie.
Yeah. You
I
know,
did not have final cut. I didn't even have final phone call. I had nothing. I had no say at all. Every time I said, no, you can't do it that way. Sure, Dave, no problem. And they laugh. Go back in the editing bay, go,
It's a great story about that footage, though, because Bobby Hammer, who is a cinematographer, shot movies with Alan Davio, who shot E.T. They have had a gentleman's agreement that footage couldn't go out because of what he just told you about. There's some nudity and all that. And I asked Cross, I said, could you please put me in touch with Bobby? And finally, Bobby called me one day. I got this phone call from Monterey, and he's like, AJ, it's Bobby Hammer. Cross called me. He says that you're the guy that should have the footage. And so we have this awesome associate producer, Gabe. We rented him a car. It was like the Indianapolis 500 up to Monterey. And in Bobby Hammer's garage, and Bobby's like, how old is he, Cross?
really old.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff stored in this garage, okay? And if you know anything about film, you don't store film in your garage. It's supposed to be stored in a cool, dry place. And so Gabe is pulling out these boxes, and they're getting these tins of footage or whatever, and finally there's like one manila envelope that says the box. And that's our film. That's the most valuable. And so we did this like forensic photochem Technicolor transfer, and if that would have been left in that garage another 2 weeks, it wouldn't have been playable.
It's such valuable stuff because it was an absolute high point in my life, and it was like a touchstone, that boat. Hollywood's a trick, you know. It's a place where everybody thinks the world rotates around Hollywood, and it doesn't. And if you get out in the ocean, away from all of this and away from star bullshit and celebrity bullshit and all the other kinds of fame bullshit, and outward, there's none of that. The ocean doesn't know who you are or give a fuck. Couldn't care less. And it's utterly beautiful. And that we caught it, that we had the footage, and you could see it, you can feel it. You can feel that boat dance under you. It's really precious, because it's a deep part of who I am. I've been a sailor since I was 11. I love the ocean.
It was called the Mayan.
Yeah, it's called the Mayan.
That footage is magic, and it's like it was filmed yesterday, but it so obviously wasn't, and it's rich, and
Feels right, though, huh?
it feels so good. And when
Yeah.
we started putting it together with the music, and particularly that sequence when we're playing Lee Shore, and you're going under the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's just a look of pure ecstasy, and you feel the time, and you feel everything I went home last night and I saw this featurette where Elvis Mitchell was interviewing people on the Quentin Tarantino movie, and they were just talking about how lovingly and carefully they tried to recreate the 60s and to get captured all. And I'm thinking, dude, just go to Bobby Hammer's garage. Get the shit there.
Yeah.
That's it.
You'll get the 60s real fast.
And there's also thousands of photographs that came from Bobby Hammer, too. Those slides of Christine and all of that, that's all Bobby Hammer
It
stuff.
was a real breakthrough for us.
So, I want to get some of your questions in a minute, but I mean, I think one of the things that makes the film work so well, and like huge credit to the way it's edited, especially, is that you have time for.
Well, they did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
You did do a brilliant job. You know you did.
But you have time for moments like that because you don't go through the entire soup to nuts history of the Byrds, and you don't have everything chronologically. You allow it to breathe in places it needs to breathe, and you allow things to be cut. So, I mean, what were the hardest things to leave out, and what was just kind of the guiding principle as you were trying to put this together?
Well, David's lived an epic life. He's lived 2 epic lives. Maybe three. Yeah. And so
10 says Elisa, our editor.
Yeah. So, when you start to task, I mean, it's a Herculean task.
We left out a lot of stuff. There's, there's no stuff about the time that I spent in prison. There's no time stuff. I mean, the tiny bit. There's no time. We left the liver transplant out. I was supposed to be dead 20 years ago. I'm really off schedule.
Well, anyways, we had this task, which you can see is complicated.
What a silly thing to say.
These are completely unique conversations to this project.
See, when I said my mouth just like runs off by itself, that's it.
Where are we going to put the liver transplant? I think it's probably unique to this movie that phrase was said a lot, frankly. It's such a rich kind of experience to dig through all this stuff. And the great thing is he really doesn't spend that much time talking about the past. So once he opens the doors to talk about it, sorry to mention the Doors. Once he opens the doors, it's he goes there, but it's not like he stands on the corner and reminisces about Des Moines in '81 or something. It's like he doesn't do that. He is the classic Truffaut guy that's like, I don't look back until I'm rocketing forwards. And that was our structure.
I don't see why I should. But it is my nature. I'm thinking about what I got to do tomorrow and what I'm supposed to do the day after tomorrow and what I would like to do next week. And I'm really thinking about what my plan is for next year. But truthfully, I haven't listened to a CSNY record in 10 years. I haven't listened to a Byrds record in probably 20. And they're good records. I'm proud of them. I just don't think about all that stuff because I got tomorrow coming. And tomorrow's got a ton of stuff in it and a lot of music. And it seems to me that's my natural bent, I guess. I don't know.
You've talked a couple times about a tendency to shoot off your mouth. And you're also a prolific user of Twitter.
We're going to be friends.
Of Twitter, which is like the one place you're most likely to get in trouble for shooting off your mouth, right? Do you see a risk here, or does this feel incompatible?
There's a lot of
I do get in trouble on Twitter.
Oh, okay, good.
The David Crosby on Twitter.
Oh,
Follow
man, are you
It's
kidding?
enjoyable.
Okay, Kanye. Okay, he goes on stage at Glastonbury. He tries to do Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. He can't sing his way out of a Kleenex box. He's a lousy singer. He's lousy. Freddie Mercury, he's queer as a $3 bill. He can sing his ass off. Ass off. The man could really sing. Kanye does this abysmal version of it. Terrible. Out of tune, wrong, bad, misread, wrong every kind of way. Gets off stage and says, I'm the greatest living rock star. Oh, it pissed me off. So I get on Twitter and I say, would somebody please drive him by Stevie Wonder's house so he knows what the greatest living rock star looks like? And on the way, would you buy him Ray Charles's record collection so he can learn how to fucking sing? And I got in a lot of trouble. I did get in a lot of trouble. A lot of people were very angry with me. They said, I have a lot of fun there, and it's mostly because people are fascinating. They are. You know that? It's been... I started out just doing it to try and help, sell tickets and sell records, because things are hard since streaming. But it's turned into a fascinating place. I love it, and I've also found people there. I've discovered new talent there, because they know they don't listen to their dad's record or their brother's new band or this quote song that they think they just wrote. I've run into, it's 1 in 100, but I have run into immensely talented beginners there. That's fun.
I'd love to take some of your questions if anyone has any really burning questions. Yes, ma'am. You and the
Thank you so much. I am just blown away. I've been looking forward to this. Thank you, all of you. But this is to David. I felt that it was such a. Thank you for opening your heart up in your life. But I felt this was like a living amends. Like you were making amends or something in some ways about, I don't know, there was something very heartfelt, and not that you were saying you're sorry, but that you get it somehow. And when at the end you said something about maybe this is a secret master plan.
No, that was a joke.
I would love that something beautiful, magical comes out of this film that...
I would too, and I did make amends. I did spend 14 years in the program, and I did learn about some stuff there, and that's one of them. And I have gone back, particularly to the women that I went with, who were good people, and these were not overnight things. These were years-long relationships, and they were good people, and I don't think that I did right by them. So yeah, I have gone back to make amends. This film is not really an amends. It's an attempt. It started out as an attempt just to talk about this really strange thing of this burst of energy that's come upon me, and I don't understand it myself, and I can't explain it to you, but it's there. It went deeper because of these guys, because they were interested and because they're not surfacey kind of guys, and because they knew there was more stuff there. It went deeper than any of us meant it to go. What would you have us done? Oh, we couldn't ignore it if it was there.
You set the theme in the first interview when you said, what are you going to do with the time you have left? Time is the final currency. It was the first interview, and you immediately set our course when you said that.
I think it's an absolutely right thing. Look, the quality of your life, if you're as old as me, you know you're going to die. There's not any question about it. You're all going to die. We do that. That's what human beings do. If you have 10 years or if you have 2 weeks, that's not the most significant part about it. It's what do you do with that 10 years or those 2 weeks. That's where it gets important. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the real deal is. And it matters to me, man. I wasted a lot of my damn life. Every minute matters to me now. I spent a long time not liking who I was. Every bit of every action I take now has to be seen through that lens. I cannot let myself be like that. I have to be worth a shit. I have to make a contribution. And this helped me look at it. It helps if you look. It's not comfortable. I didn't say it was. I said it's worth it.
You know what I think is interesting is that when we go into the If I Can Remember My Name section, and Stephen Barncard says he walked in with no plan at all, and then at the end of the movie, he's like, maybe it was a clever plan. I love that.
Yeah, it wasn't a clever plan. I've never really had a clever plan.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more. If someone has
I also love when you say love is the best thing we
really
do. I think that's a
Yes, sir.
cool thing.
Just thank you for making this film, all of you.
Thank you.
I guess if there's a question there, was anything off limits?
No. We knew that going in.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have accepted it if I'd said them. and I wouldn't set them if they'd wanted to. It's not what we do. You know, it's most assuredly not what they do. They're filmmakers, and they want to make you feel stuff. And their job is to sequence a bunch of images and music and ideas and thoughts and language and expressions and gestures and stuff in a way that makes you feel something. And I think they did it. I think they did a great job.
Thank you.
I think it's important. Yeah, for sure. I think it's important that not just we make you feel something, but we make you feel something the way that David Crosby makes you feel. So it's not really us.
You mean confused?
Confused, soulful, but if you've ever fallen in love with his music, it takes you to a very specific place. It's a rich place. It's a banquet of feelings. It's all kinds of great things, but it's a specific place. And I always thought, and we always talked about this, is that, even through all the chapters of his life, our goal was to give you the feeling of a great David Crosby song.
Yeah.
And that's what I get from it. And it ends with the new song that he's written for us called Glory, that to me is as good as anything he's ever done.
I agree.
Thank you, man.
So that's how we wrapped it up in a way where we didn't wrap it up, because there's still a lot more life there.
I'm holding firmly. I have to say.
Speaking of wrapping it up, I think that's all we have time for, but thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.